I grew up as a vegetarian, and I was so thankful that I was vegetarian, especially when I saw my friends eating meat, because I knew that I didn't want to harm a single animal. And I knew that I believed that I wasn't harming animals by having eggs and milk. So when I found out that eggs and milk truly harm animals, because chickens are made to lay 250 eggs a year instead of the normal eggs which a bird would lay, which is not more than 25, from 25 to 250. And if I'm drinking milk, the calf doesn't get it. I loved milk, and I loved all the things made from milk. And I used to love the way it made me feel full. But I knew I had to leave it, and I did. And this was the best thing that I did in my life. When we consume milk, the male calves go for slaughter, the female calves are tied up away from their mothers, and they really suffer. And then they become milk machines themselves and suffer the same fate of repeated pregnancies and deliveries, losing their babies and having the other ones tied up. So I just knew I didn't want to be a part of it, and I also understood that my grandmother used to make a delicacy from colostrum. And when I realized what I was having, I was just so shocked that we humans can do such a thing, because consuming colostrum means that the calf has not consumed any milk from its mother. That's a male calf. Now, what it did for me, besides improving my physical health, because milk is mucus forming, and when you stop consuming milk, after a while you don't get colds and coughs, and as a woman you don't get menstrual problems because milk contains hormones that cause all these things. It's a huge feeling of health, but most importantly, it's a shift in the state of mind. You know, when we are stressed, we produce adrenaline. A cow is always stressed. Since her baby has been taken away from her, she is always stressed. And all that adrenaline that she produces comes to us through the milk. I became so calm and so peaceful after I stopped consuming milk. So this was the best thing in my life, and especially since these days so many people are depressed, anxious and fearful. This is the best advice I could give them. Stop consuming animal products altogether. Led me to start SHARAN. I'm a doctor, and I realized that medicines never cure, but the right food is always the right fuel, and the body always works to heal. And nutrients are the spare parts for healing. And so I had to shift my practice from giving medicines to helping people heal themselves. And now I know that all kinds of lifestyle diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, or even cancers and autoimmune diseases can be successfully reversed just through food. Every mammal produces milk only for their young, and we are not cows, and so we don't need milk. No animal needs milk beyond what their mother produces. So the only question comes if, a child has lost its mother, or if a mother cannot produce milk. And that's another story. But for 99% of the mothers, no one needs to give cow's milk, ever. And for the 1%, there are alternatives to cow's milk as well. Formula without cow's milk. Now, we often think I grew up as a vegetarian and my parents told me I needed to drink my milk for the protein and the calcium. But that's not true. Because when we think about it, where does a cow get the protein from? We can get it from the same source. And where does a cow get the calcium from? Calcium is a mineral. It comes from the ground. So does iron and other minerals. And anything that grows in the ground has these minerals. So we can get them all. So we don't need milk for calcium, and we definitely don't need milk for protein. Greens and beans are full of protein, and if we have some greens every day or beans, and we don't even need to have it every day because protein is found in every cell. There's no cell, a cell cannot exist without protein. And so with every single bite we are consuming protein. And fruit, the amount of protein in fruit is similar to the amount of protein in human milk. We never need more than that because protein is a food for growth. So this question has two parts. One is vitamin D and one is calcium. And we definitely don't need dairy for calcium because you can get calcium from beans, from greens, from seeds and nuts. And everything has calcium. So there's no known dietary deficiency of calcium in the world. Which is why if someone has osteoporosis and takes calcium supplements, they are unlikely to get better just with calcium supplements. Taking excess calcium can be harmful because excess calcium can cause kidney stones or calcification of the arteries, and we don't need that. So, sesame, for example, sesame has 10 times the amount of calcium than cow's milk. You have sesame chicky or til chicky, or you have sesame. I love to make a dressing from sesame paste, that is tahini. But you can have sesame in any way and make sure that you've got more than enough calcium, right? And then even if you never have sesame, there are beans and seeds and greens, and we have enough calcium. Now, vitamin D is a deficiency that anyone can have, whether they're having milk or other things. Nowadays, cows don't have enough vitamin D because they're not in the sunshine all the time. Most of the cows are kept in closed confinement so that they can be milked turn by turn and nobody has to go running out to get them. Also, there's not enough land for this. So cows don't have enough vitamin D, there is not vitamin D in the milk, and therefore we do have deficiencies. Everyone, vegetarians and non-vegetarians, have vitamin D deficiencies, and therefore everyone should be checked and supplemented if necessary. Vitamin D deficiency can cause osteoporosis. It can also cause other problems like sleep disturbances, muscle pains, even depression and diabetes. And therefore it's really important to check and supplement vitamin D where necessary. Our body is alkaline. When we consume something which is acidic, then it has to be neutralized. The acid has to be neutralized, and it's neutralized by taking calcium out of the bones to neutralize the acid. So how can we avoid making our body acidic? There are certain things which are acidic: tea, coffee, colas, sugar, vinegar, salt. And so we should minimize all of these except salt. We should just take according to necessity, not over salty things. But also proteins. You must have heard that proteins are broken down into amino acids. And this is acidic in our body and needs to be neutralized by taking calcium out of the bones. If we don't consume dairy, which is high in protein, then we don't take out calcium from the bones, and so we have more net calcium in our body. Imagine, we don't need milk for calcium. Milk actually depletes the calcium in our body, which is why maximum osteoporosis is in the countries with the highest consumption of dairy. People who want to sell something will tell you all the good things about it. but they need not be true. If you read something in an advertisement, always check if it's really true. A2 milk is the milk from A2 cows. It doesn't define how well they've been kept, and it doesn't define whether it's organic or not. A2 milk is from A2 cows, that means the Indian cow variety. And A2 milk is great, but only for Indian cows. Every mother's milk is only good for its mother. A2 milk is good for A2 calves. A1 milk is good for A1 calves. And if you're not a calf, then you don't need A1 or A2 milk. And both of them can actually be bad for you. There are many ways in which milk is bad for you. One, we already stated that milk is acidic in our body. It's acid yielding, and so it leaches calcium out of the bones. But milk also contains antibiotics and pus and hormones. Today, so many people have hormonal problems like PCOD and breast cancer and prostate cancer and menstrual complaints and prostate enlargement and hypothyroidism, and all of these are caused by wrong or imbalance of hormones in our body. Therefore, we really shouldn't consume any dairy. That dairy can cause all these diseases, and yet it does. So let me take them one by one and give you an idea of how these are affected. Diabetes, PCOD, and even acne are hormonal problems. And all our hormones are orchestrated by the pituitary gland. And it's a gland at the back of our brain. And when one hormone goes out of balance, so do all the others. And therefore, when we consume dairy, we are consuming a lot of hormones, the natural hormones which a cow produces, which are growth hormones and progesterones and estrogens and prolactin and oxytocin and even others. And nowadays, cows are being injected with hormones to make them produce more milk. So that's additionally, right? Therefore, we have to make sure that we avoid this, because there's so many hormonal issues that besides these, right? Of course, diabetes and PCOD and acne are issues. Breast cancer and prostate cancer are also hormone-dependent cancers. Hypothyroidism is a hormonal problem. Prostate enlargement is a hormonal problem. These can all be prevented and many times reversed just by taking dairy out of the diet. Okay, then there's cardiovascular diseases like high blood pressure and coronary artery disease, angina and heart attacks. And these are caused because the arteries that supply blood to various parts and also to the heart are getting blocked. What are they blocked with? Fat and cholesterol. Cholesterol only comes from animal products. Milk, like meat and all other animal products, is full of cholesterol, but plants never make cholesterol. There's no cholesterol in coconuts or cashews. And therefore, you can eat all the plants you wish and not add to your cholesterol. The fats also are found in oils, but also in all animal products. Boiled milk fat on top, boiled chicken fat on top, boiled fish fat on top. All animal products contain fats without fiber. Now, even peanuts have fat, right? But if you boil peanuts, you don't get a layer of fat on top because there's fiber that holds on to the fats. And we can have any whole plant-based products which have fats like coconut or peanuts or cashews or other nuts and not get our arteries loaded with fat just because the protective fiber is there. Okay, and then there's obesity. How does milk cause obesity? Milk contains growth hormones to make a baby calf grow to full size in 18 months. If we consume dairy, we grow in height, but also grow in width. And today people are consuming more dairy than ever before, not just in the form of milk, but in the form of yogurt and cheese and paneer. Paneer is a concentrated form of milk. Cheese is an even more concentrated form of milk. And that means more growth hormones and more fat and getting fatter. It's really interesting that when you stop consuming dairy, you lose weight very quickly. Now, there are various ways in which dairy promotes cancers. Number one, dairy is full of protein. Protein is a food for growth. Cancer is a growth. Second, the protein in dairy is casein. And casein is actually a carcinogen. It has been found that when rats are fed a high casein diet, a high milk protein diet, they invariably develop tumors that are carcinogenic. And these tumors can be minimized and even reversed by taking away this casein. Milk is a number one carcinogen and should be labeled as such, but it's not being done right now. Number three, milk contains hormones like estrogen and progesterone, and these promote hormone-dependent cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer. And the first thing that doctors do is give medicines to break down the cancer, break down the hormones in patients with these cancers. But we can stop putting the hormones in our body and minimize the risk of cancer right away by taking dairy and animal products out of the diet. Now, there are other ways in which milk also promotes cancer. I'll tell you a few. Cancer cells thrive in acidic medium, and dairy makes our body more acidic due to the protein which breaks down into amino acids. Also, milk, as we saw, blocks the arteries, and cancer cells thrive with less oxygenation. And so when we block our arteries, it's like giving an invitation to the cancer cells to grow. So there are so many reasons why milk actually promotes cancers, and therefore, in cases of cancer, the first thing that should be stopped is milk and all animal products. And if we reduce or stop our milk consumption, we can to a large extent prevent diabetes and cardiovascular disease, PCOD, obesity, acne, and various forms of cancer. Isn't it worth doing? All our hormones are orchestrated by the pituitary gland, and when one goes out of balance, others go out of balance, which is why we have so many hormonal problems today, like breast cancer, prostate enlargement, and hypothyroidism, and diabetes is a hormonal problem too, and menstrual disorders, premature puberty, and acne, and obesity, and gynecomastia, and so on and so forth. And these can be minimized by cutting out dairy, as in stopping putting hormones in the body. And while we're at it, we should cut out other animal products too. What's wrong with, why does dairy contain pus? Because a cow's udders are meant for a baby calf to suckle on. But if they are manipulated with human hands, or even worse, milk machines, they are always injured, indurated, inflamed, and that causes pus formation. And in order to control this pus formation, antibiotics are routinely given in the feed. Now, everyone knows that when a mother is lactating, she's told not to have medicines. But now we are giving the cow antibiotics every day. Obviously, there's antibiotics in the milk. And therefore, if you consume milk, you're inadvertently consuming antibiotics, which eventually causes antibiotic resistance. Today we have so many cases of antibiotic resistance where we take antibiotics and they don't work because we have already been having them through our milk and other animal products, and now they don't work in our body at all. If you're not a baby, you don't need milk. Therefore, you don't need milk alternatives. Now, there are plenty of milk alternatives. There's cashew milk and peanut milk and oat milk and rice milk and almond milk and banana milk, and you can make milk out of so many different things, right? And each milk will have the nutrients according to what it's made from. And none of these are bad. In fact, many of them are even more nutritious than cow's milk. But none of these are required because we're eating these in our diet anyway. So there's no need to worry about having dairy alternatives, which could be expensive. But if you like them, you can have them as much as you want. Now, often dairy alternatives come in Tetra packs, which means plastics, and they may be preserved with chemicals and they may not be organic. I do want to mention that we have recipes for dairy alternatives that can be quickly made at home, just with the use of a blender and some water and the ingredients. And you don't need to buy store-bought dairy alternatives, but if you do, that's fine too. Let's just first switch from milk, which comes in a package, to dairy alternatives that come in a package, and then learn to make them at home and get out of the whole thing altogether. Veganism is the way we were always living. Dal, chawal, roti, sabzi is vegan, right? So veganism is not expensive. Animal products are expensive anyway. And veganism is really healthy because if you eat a healthy vegan diet, you can prevent diseases. Medicines cost a lot, doctors cost a lot, hospitalization costs a lot, and diseases cost lives. We can prevent all this excessive waste. We can prevent this excessive waste by learning about a healthy whole food plant-based diet and prevent diseases, be healthy, and also save animal lives. These animals want to live and want to be secure, fearless, and comfortable just as much as we do. Nowadays, so many people are afraid of COVID, when COVID only kills 2% of the people it attacks. But imagine what animals feel at the slaughterhouse. They know they're going to die. And 100% of them die. We can